Welcome to the deep dive. So imagine you're, trying to impress your friends or family by cooking this highly complex 1930s pressed chicken.
Oh, that sounds like a very stressful dinner party.
Right. I mean, you've got your whole chicken, your specialized baking dishes, maybe like 8 ribs of celery.
Yeah.
You're staring down the barrel of 60, maybe even $80 worth of ingredients.
Which is a real investment for a single meal.
Exactly. And if you're anything like most people, you are absolutely terrified of ruining it.
Because traditional recipes, they just leave so much open to interpretation. I mean, they assume you have the exact same oven heat, the exact same prep skills, and the same intuitive timing as the author.
Yeah, and when those hidden assumptions fail, you end up with a ruined dinner and a serious dent in your wallet.
Which brings us to the focus of today's deep dive. We're looking at a platform called RPNchef.
And RPN stands for Recipe Process Notation, right?
Correct. To translate that out of tech speak, think of it kind of like, well, computer code, but for cooking.
That sounds intense.
It is. Every single variable, from the exact measure of an ingredient to the sequence of prep, is locked into this hyper-specific step-by-step format. You only do one thing at a time.
Huh?
The company actually calls this engineered perfection.
But the wild thing is, avoiding a soggy chicken is really just the hook.
Oh, absolutely. The recipe formatting is essentially the bait for something much larger.
Yeah, when you look at their briefing documents, you realize the true mission here is what they call the RPNchef Artificial Intelligence Food Chain Cycle.
It's a massive, highly interconnected economic ecosystem.
And that's the part that really blew my mind. They're taking a simple recipe and turning it into this financial engine that loops in everyday cooks, massive equipment vendors, and even creates like local digital land grabs.
It's basically a neighborhood bake sale operating with the complexity of the New York Stock Exchange.
Exactly. So how does a cooking website transition into an economy?
Well, it starts by completely rethinking the role of the person making the food. To understand the mechanics of this AI food chain, we really have to look at the consumer.
The person eating the chicken.
Right, but in this ecosystem, a consumer isn't just someone eating dinner. They're living a dual life as both a buyer and a data-generating author. They fuel the entire machine.
Okay, let's look at the data side first, because the AI integration here is fascinating. The platform's AI takes in all this information about the consumer, their specific preferences, dietary needs, and crucially, their affordability.
And it isn't just spitting out a generic, make tacos tonight kind of suggestion.
Right.
The AI is constantly running a localized matching system. It processes alternatives, scans for special deals and coupons at local vendors, aligns the meal with USDA guidelines.
Wait, it's checking USDA guidelines while you plan dinner.
Yep. It factors in health sustainability, and it calculates ways to eliminate food waste. It curates this highly personalized path to a meal while strictly maintaining the consumer's budget.
So the consumer is getting this tailored, fail-proof set of instructions. But then we cross the line from data to finance. This is where the consumer becomes an author.
Yes, the revenue stream.
Let's say you, the listener, decide to submit your own personal recipe into this strict format. You actually get to set your own online selling price for that recipe.
And the revenue split is heavily weighted toward the creator, which is rare. If you format your recipe through their system, you receive 91% of the online sale revenue.
Wow, 91%.
Yeah, RPNchef only takes 9%. There's a small standard internet banking transaction fee taken out around 35 cents plus 4%, but the vast majority of the money flows directly back to you, the author.
But the online sales aren't even the wildest part. The platform has this offline mechanism, a coupon system, that is just a brilliant piece of behavioral psychology.
The coupons are fascinating.
When you submit a format-compliant recipe, the platform rewards you with free coupons. Like if it's your first recipe, they give you 150 of these coupons.
And think of those coupons as digital, redeemable copies of your specific recipe that you now own outright.
Right. And the source material explicitly states you can take these coupons and sell them to people in person, face-to-face, for whatever price the market will bear, and you keep 100% of that cash on the spot.
It's all yours.
RPNchef even puts in writing that they will, quote, never know the amount you charged or ever handle the funds.
They're essentially turning their user base into an army of on-the-ground marketers.
It totally reminds me of an indie band selling CDs out of the trunk of their car after a gig.
That's a perfect analogy.
You have total, immediate control over the cash in your pocket. The person who buys the code from you just goes to the website and redeems it for free. The platform handles all the global digital distribution, but you hustle the physical sales.
It's a very clever way to drive user acquisition. I mean,
Right.
the platform gets a new user on their site to redeem the recipe, and they didn't have to spend a dime on advertising.
Because the author did the work.
Exactly, because they were incentivized by the immediate cash.
Hold on, though. This brings up a massive conceptual hurdle. I mean, I can open my phone right now and find 10 million free chicken recipes. Why on earth would anyone pay $10 or $12 for a formatted recipe from their neighbor?
It's the most obvious critique of the entire model, and the RPNchef directors clearly knew it was coming.
They had an answer ready.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They added a specific section to their documents, FAQ 17, to address it. Their defense pivots entirely on the concept of hidden costs. They argue that free recipes are actually the most expensive recipes you can cook.
Ah, because of the ruined ingredients we talked about earlier.
Yes, they break down the math. A very basic dinner recipe might cost $20 in groceries. But if you're tackling a complex, beautifully photographed recipe you found online, you can easily spend $60 to over $100 once you factor in specialized spices, premium cuts of meat, or maybe a baking dish you didn't previously own.
So if that free recipe omits a crucial step, or assumes you know how to properly temper a sauce, and the dish is ruined, you didn't just waste your evening. You essentially threw $100 directly into the trash can.
Exactly. The RPNchef format, with those hyper-specific locked-in variables, acts as an insurance policy.
An insurance policy for dinner.
Right. Their marketing claim of engineered perfection is essentially a guarantee that your expensive grocery run will actually result in an edible, high-quality meal. You are paying a small premium upfront to ensure the much larger investment you're making at the grocery store.
Okay, that actually makes logical sense. If I'm buying an insurance policy against ruining a complex dish, the platform has to guarantee that I'm using the exact right parts.
They do.
Because if a recipe is calibrated to the millimeter, I can't just substitute whatever generic brand I find, and that organically pulls us to the next layer of this ecosystem, the vendors.
The vendors are the physical supply chain for this digital ecosystem. We mentioned earlier that the AI knows the consumer's preferences. Well, the AI is simultaneously pulling data from the vendors regarding their market availability and current sales.
So the AI is the ultimate matchmaker here.
Precisely.
It knows you want to cook the 1930s chicken, and it knows exactly which local vendor has the specific 8-quart pot and the exact brand of celery required to make it match the format's guarantee.
And RPNchef integrates the vendors directly into the recipe itself. If a specific brand of celery or a specific pot is required, that vendor gets embedded advertising within the recipe's standardized sections.
That's section C for equipment and section G for ingredients, right?
Exactly. And it isn't just a text mention. The vendors get direct links, and they can offer specific coupons right there at the moment of intent.
The consumer is reading the recipe, realizes they need the pot, and the link to buy it is just staring them in the face.
It creates a completely seamless point of sale. Now, we should differentiate here because the documents make a clear distinction between a standard vendor and what they call a sponsor.
Okay, a sponsor seems to be a business that takes a much more active role in the platform.
They are. A sponsor actually takes their own proprietary recipe and converts it into the strict RPNchef format. By taking that extra step, the platform rewards them heavily.
What kind of rewards?
They get their corporate logo stamped on every single page of that recipe. They also receive 500 free coupons to distribute, which lets them test market their products to new customers.
And those test customers then have to provide feedback through RPNchef's radar diagram. I want to touch on that because it's a really brilliant way to handle food critique.
It is. The radar diagram forces the consumer to provide quantifiable data rather than subjective taste.
So instead of just saying, this chicken is gross, it measures specific objective variables.
Right. It removes the emotion from the review process, which gives the sponsor actionable engineering-level data on how their product performs in an actual home kitchen.
But wait, I have to pause on a detail in the vendor briefing that really threw me. The document talks about vendors, quote, getting paid for free advertising.
Yeah, that phrasing is quite the hook.
It sounds like a complete paradox. How does a brand giving away coupons or getting free ad space lead to them actually receiving money from the platform?
It does sound completely contradictory on the surface, but it comes down to a very specific and slightly complex mechanism involving the U.S. tax code,
The tax code.
specifically the rules around independent contractors.
Okay, I mean, the IRS doesn't just let anyone write off groceries. How does a cooking platform legally weave a home cook into federal tax deductions?
It hinges on a specific class of users RPNchef calls consultants. To achieve that engineered perfection, the platform can't just trust that a recipe works. They rely on these consultants to thoroughly test, format, and mathematically rate the recipes using that radar diagram we just talked about.
So these aren't just people making dinner. They're performing a required, documented quality assurance service for the platform.
Correct. And because they're providing a professional service, these consultants are classified as independent contractors. This means they're operating as a small business entity.
I think I see where this is going.
Therefore, any equipment, ingredients, or tools they purchase specifically to test and format a recipe for the platform is considered a fully recognized legitimate business tax deduction by the IRS.
But if I'm a consultant and I spend $80 on a premium baking dish to test this chicken recipe, a tax deduction just lowers my taxable income. I am still out the $80 up front. How is that a massive incentive?
Well, you're right that they still spend the money. But if someone is trying to launch a side hustle or a small business as a culinary consultant, they have to buy that equipment anyway.
That makes sense.
What RPNchef provides is a highly structured, fully documented system that legitimizes those purchases as undeniable business expenses.
And the documents show that RPNchef actively coaches the vendors to weaponize this. They tell the vendors to create customized starter packages of their equipment or premium ingredients and market them directly to these consultants.
Oh yeah, RPNchef literally calls the IRS the silent but most powerful partner in this operation.
That is wild.
The vendor approaches a consultant and says, hey, buy our premium $80 equipment package so you can test more recipes and earn more money, and you can write off the cost of our equipment on your taxes.
It is a totally closed-loop system. The vendor gets a highly targeted, guaranteed sale. The consultant gets the tools they need to generate revenue, plus a legitimate tax write-off. And the platform gets perfectly verified recipes to feed back into the AI.
Exactly. It essentially turns a trip to the kitchenwares aisle into a federally subsidized business strategy.
It's a remarkable way to intertwine everyday culinary tasks with complex economic incentives. Every single action, from buying celery to rating a dish, generates value for someone in the chain.
And that leads us to the big scaling question.
Right. So we have consumers keeping 91% of their digital sales or hustling physical coupons for pure cash. We have vendors moving inventory by selling tax-deductible starter kits. But how do you scale a hyper-local system like this across an entire country without the logistics just collapsing?
That brings us to the final and undoubtedly the most ambitious piece of the RPNchef ecosystem, the CDT membership.
And CDT stands for Congressional District Territory. Reading through the source material, this isn't just a membership tier. It operates like an exclusive digital franchise model.
Yeah, think of it as claiming the digital toll booth for an entire geographic area's culinary data. Someone can pay a yearly service fee to essentially own a specific U.S. congressional district on the platform.
So what's the fee for that?
The fee is $730 a year for a regular member, or drops to $365 if they are already an active RPNchef consultant.
Let's break down the math on why someone would drop $700 to buy a digital boundary. A standard U.S. congressional district contains roughly 750,000 people.
That's a huge potential market.
Massive. If you own the CDT for that area, you receive a 2% commission on ale RPNchef recipe revenue generated within that exclusive territory.
Every single formatted recipe bought, sold, or redeemed by anyone living inside that geographic boundary yields a 2% passive royalty directly to the territory owner.
It completely shifts the concept from a cooking utility to buying digital real estate. I mean, you aren't just trying to sell your own grandma's famous chicken recipe anymore.
No, not at all.
You are buying the rights to take a 2% skim off the top of every single recipe sold by every single person in your entire zip code.
And because it operates like a true franchise, this yearly agreement isn't just a subscription. It is recognized by the platform as a saleable asset.
Meaning, if I buy a territory and the ecosystem really takes off in my city, I can turn around and sell those territory rights to an investor.
Yes, you can. If you build up a highly profitable active territory, you can sell that CDT agreement to a new owner. The platform facilitates the transfer. The seller keeps 91% of the transaction value, and RPNchef takes a 9% cut.
They even engineered a system to create immediate urgency around buying these territories. The documents detail this 15 business day grace period.
That is a fascinating mechanism for driving sales. If you apply for a territory, the platform puts a hold on it for 15 days while you finalize the paperwork and secure the funds.
But the kicker is, while you're in that 15-day waiting period, the platform tracks all the revenue being generated in that territory. If you successfully close the deal, you instantly collect all the royalties that piled up during your grace period.
It provides immediate cash flow the second the ink is dry, which heavily incentivizes applicants to actually follow through and pay the fee.
But looking at this critically, doesn't this entirely change the motivation of the people using the platform? The local franchisee, the CDT owner, doesn't necessarily care about cooking a perfect 1930s chicken. They only care about transaction volume.
If you connect the CDT model back to the AI food chain cycle we started with, you see how it acts as the enforcement grid for the whole system. The territory owner is financially motivated to grow the ecosystem locally.
Because if I own the territory, my passive income only grows if the AI has a massive amount of local data to match buyers and sellers.
Exactly. The territory owner is incentivized to go out into their community and recruit more consumers to write and buy recipes.
Right.
They're incentivized to walk into local grocery stores and hardware shops and convince them to become vendors or sponsors. They do the grassroots organizing, ensuring the AI has enough hyper-local inventory and consumer data to make those engineered perfection suggestions actually work.
They are essentially human batteries powering the localized AI matching engine.
They build the physical supply chain that makes the digital promises possible.
Let's zoom out and look at the big picture here, because this deep dive covers a lot of ground. What looks, on its face, like a slightly quirky platform designed to help you strictly format complex recipes is actually a highly engineered economic engine.
It really is a machine designed to monetize every single friction point in the traditional cooking process.
It takes everyday home cooks and turns them into data-generating authors who can keep 91% of their digital sales, or who can hit the streets selling physical coupons for 100% cash.
Transforming the cook into the marketer.
Exactly. It takes the mundane chore of buying a new cutting board or a specific brand of celery and transforms it into an IRS tax-deductible business expense for independent quality assurance consultants.
And most ambitiously, it turns local neighborhoods and congressional districts into franchised digital territories yielding passive royalties.
It completely reimagines the kitchen not as a place of domestic chore, but as a node in a decentralized financial network.
It really does. It's a brilliant application of systems thinking to something as fundamental as preparing a meal. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I think we have to look at the philosophical undercurrent of all this.
Yeah, we have to talk about what this means for the actual process of cooking.
It raises a profound question about the nature of skill. As the AI powering the RPNchef food chain gets increasingly sophisticated at perfectly predicting our preferences, our budgets, and our local vendor inventory.
The hyper-localized matchmaking.
Right. And as the platform standardizes the deeply human element of cooking into a rigid guarantee of engineered perfection, what happens to the actual art of cooking?
The messy, intuitive, sometimes frustrating trial and error part of being in a kitchen. Learning how to salvage a sauce that broke, or knowing instinctively when a chicken is done just by the smell.
If a platform mathematically guarantees you will never make a mistake again
Yeah.
and builds a massive hyper-local economy around enforcing that guarantee, will we eventually lose the ability to cook without an AI guiding our every single step?
That's a great point.
If we are too terrified of the financial cost to ever risk ruining a meal, do we ever really learn how to cook at all? Or do we just learn how to follow code? Something to chew on next time you step into the kitchen.